Suneater. Written by Dressed Thinking Drabbles. Read by Arashi. Being a member of the Ire royal family came with a lot of unspoken rules and regulations that one was to follow if they hoped to keep their place within the line of succession. Such a lavish lifestyle came with strings attached at the moment of birth, or perhaps the expectations were drawn up long before that, during the time when one was not even a twinkle in their mother's eye. It always meant appearing to know the right course of action, and smiling even when they felt the furthest thing from happiness. It meant putting their own interests to the side in favor of someone else's, and making absolutely certain that their flaws never slipped from the cracks of their carefully crafted facades. It was a pathway without exits, and left no room for mishaps at all. So when Crown Prince Ferdinand was told he must find a wife, he did not argue about it. He thought of several reasons too, of course, but he knew even if he voiced them, they would only fall on deaf ears. His father did not care for what he had to say, and would fume at his desire to marry someone for love instead of political gain. It was for one of these reasons that he remained silent as he was told he would be traveling to meet with one of his political matches, and that his horse was already being saddled to leave. Ferdinand left the castle feeling entirely too conflicted for his own liking. He had always done what his father asked of him without complaint, but this request was different. He did not know if he was capable of marrying someone he did not hold affection for. He wanted romance, passion, and the excitement of waking up beside the person he loved most in the world and feeling waves of fondness wash over him whenever they looked at one another. None of that would be possible if he married simply because he was told to. He shook his head to chase away the dark thoughts as his horse led him through the thick forest just outside the capital city. There was no point in dwelling on it now, and doing so would only make him sadder. So instead, he turned his focus onto the calming symphony of nature around him, the gentle rush of a nearby river, and the sing-song chirp of birds busying themselves above always helped cheer him up. He often felt at peace here. This was a place where he felt he could be himself, and that was a luxury he could not afford anywhere else. Yet as he listened to the familiar sounds around him, his ear caught hold of something new and wholly unexpected. It sounded like someone was singing, and their voice was more lovely than any he'd ever heard. It was a song he knew quite well, and one he actually loved to sing himself whenever he was traveling. He found himself increasingly captivated by the tune, and couldn't help but follow it, hoping to find the person so that he might hear more and perhaps lavish them with compliments if he were lucky enough to meet them. When the end of the trail led to a dead end, however, Ferdinand was perplexed. The voice was louder than ever before, but there was no one in sight. He thought for a brief moment that it might all be in his head, or perhaps even the work of some malicious being he could not see trying to coax him to follow them. Would it be better to turn back and continue his journey as planned? Maybe so, but he was far too curious to let the matter be, and was certain that if he ran into any danger, he was strong enough to handle it. He dismounted his horse to examine the area and brought his fingers to the hanging vines, half expecting them to be an illusion of some sort, and his heart practically jumped out of his chest when his hand extended all the way through. He looked at his horse with a raise of his brows, with a vain expectation for a reaction, and then back at the plethora of vines once again. He took a deep breath and released it slowly before pushing them aside. His mouth immediately fell open as he found the source of where the music was coming from. In front of him stood a tall, somewhat dilapidated tower nestled between several trees and a heavy amount of underbrush. It did not have a ladder or door, leaving the only point of entry to be a small window at the very top. How long had such a place existed without anyone knowing, he wondered. He tried to approach the tower as quietly as he could so he would not frighten the person above, but his plan was immediately trounced by the snap of a branch beneath his boots, and the singing halted. Damn. He sighed at having been so easily given away, and decided that approaching with caution was the best option. After all, he wasn't sure who or what was singing, and if he wasn't careful, he might find himself in an unwelcome predicament. He cleared his throat as he stepped to the tower, and looked up at the curtained window. "Ah, my apologies for startling you. I did not intend any harm. My name is Prince Ferdinand Ire, and I was just passing through this forest when I heard the most lovely voice, and I could not help but follow. I presume it was you whose singing captured my attention?" There was no response, yet he could swear through the crack of the curtains he could see a pair of emerald eyes shining down on him. Whether they were malicious or simply looking on in fascination, he did not know, but he found them strikingly gorgeous nonetheless. Determined not to give up so easily, he decided to press onwards. "I did not know anyone lived in these woods. I know I should not pry, but I am curious as to why someone would want to live here all on their own." He watched the green eyes above him fluttered close as they sighed. There was a long pause, and he feared he would once again be met with silence. But then, "It was not my choice," they said, almost reluctantly, "and you should not be here." A response at last! But Ferdinand could not focus on his elation when hearing how melancholic the person sounded. No one should be alone, and certainly not by force. "Why do you say that? Are you in danger?" "None of your business. Go away." "Pray forgive me, but if you are in peril, then it is very much my business. I am the prince of this land, and as such, it is my duty to—"
"I don't really care what your duty is. And even if you wanted to help me, it wouldn't be possible. I can't leave this place."
"Why?" They huffed, and Ferdinand imagined their nose scrunching as they did, a wrinkle of their brow forming at his incessant questions.
"You are an inquisitive one, aren't you? If it will make you leave, then I shall tell you, but you may live to regret it."
Staring up at those gem-like eyes, and hearing their lovely voice which made his heart race so fast he thought it might explode, Ferdinand dismissed their assuredly misguided warning with a shake of his head. "I can promise you that I can handle whatever it is you wish to show me." Laughter, almost dark and sinister, but also rather jovial, came from the person, and caused a shiver to run up Ferdinand's spine. Was it from fear? Or curiosity? Perhaps a little bit of both? He couldn't be sure. "Suit yourself, then," they told him. The curtains pulled away to reveal a tall, rather pale, though no less beautiful, man, whose eyes were even more captivating and bright when caught in the glowing rays of sunlight. Yet what caught Ferdinand's attention the most was not the charming grimace on his face, or the patches of dark skin that encompassed his fingers and trailed up his wrists. It was his thick, raven hair that draped over his shoulder and out the window, continuing to fall until it reached the base of the tower. For the second time today, Ferdinand's mouth fell open in utter shock.
"I am cursed, a wretched stain upon this earth, and I deserve this fate. So as you can see, it would be in your best interest, Prince Ire, to heed my warnings and leave me be."
Ferdinand blinked and pulled himself from his stupor. Then he smiled, and it was more genuine than any he had ever given in his life. "Cursed, you say? But how can that be when you are the most beautiful person I've ever seen?" The man's cheeks tinted a rosy hue at the compliment. "Beautiful!" he scoffed. "Beautiful," Ferdinand echoed. They grew silent and stared at one another as if trying to uncover the solution to a complex puzzle. He was the first to break their stalemate. "And if it is a curse that plagues you, then it is all the better that I stay and help you. There must be some way to cure it, and we could find it better together, do you not think?" Maybe it was ill-advised, but he wanted to stay and uncover the secrets which surrounded him. Why he had been cursed, and what led him to such a lonely fate. If anyone could figure it out, then it would be him. He was the Prince Ferdinand Ire, after all, and there was nothing he could not do.
"Do whatever you want, but don't blame me when things go awry," the man said with a roll of his eyes.
Yet, despite how aggravated he appeared, Ferdinand could see there was still a portion of hope within his gaze. And when it came to fixing a curse, there was no better place to start than with that.